Welcome in, Big Blue Nation, to another episode of the Cats Talk podcast. I'm your host, Cameron Johnston, joined as always by my co-host, Jacob Boyers. Jake, a lot of things transpired over the weekend since you and I last talked on air. Wildcats fell to the Florida Gators once again and was probably one of the worst games to watch. Just no fun involved. They lost 71-63. And then, of course, Selection Sunday was yesterday, and the Kentucky Wildcats have been granted a 7 seed and will have a matchup against 10-seeded Santa Clara to start off in the St. Louis region. First off, Jake, initial thoughts on the weekend for the Kentucky Wildcats, and let's talk big picture here for a second. A 7 seed.
Yeah.
Jake.
I think kind of right where we expect it, especially after beating LSU and Missouri. We felt like that pretty much secured them off of the 8-9 line. And, with how disappointing this season's gone, you did not earn, obviously, higher than a 7 seed. I think they were seeded correctly. There's no real gripe with the committee. And, you've kind of made this bed. Now you got to lay in it. I think there were potentially worse draws they could have gotten. So at the end of the day, I think for as bad as this year's gone with a team that, lost 12 games in the regular season, I think you kind of got the best case you could have hoped for almost.
And I'm right there with you. We were watching Selection Sunday, and I'm just like live texting you, like, oh, please not this region, please not this region. And the only time I didn't do that was the region that we got. So I'm not saying it's an easy path for Kentucky, and I'm not saying this team is good enough to do something with the path that they've been granted. But for the first time in what feels like a good amount of years, this hasn't been a murderer's row that we have to go up against. But let's go ahead and let's talk about this Florida game on Friday. I know you and I really don't want to discuss it too much because it was a putrid basketball game to watch on both sides of the floor. Florida, I think, played pretty bad, and Kentucky played even worse. Big takeaways from the Gators game. It seems like this game, we've just watched it 3 times back to back to back. Just the shooting has gotten worse for each team every game out there.
Yeah, it was a gross game. I mean, I think Florida fans would tell you that it was extremely disgusting too, and they were just happy they got out of there with a win. It was a game that you had to consume a lot of green beer to get through, and luckily I was able to do that. Man, yeah, I mean, I said before the game I felt like Kentucky could win because Florida was kind of due for one of those games where they don't shoot the ball that well and really play all that well. And you got that game from them. Kentucky just could not capitalize, whether it was, a really, really bad game from Ortega Owe or Colin Chandler and Yelovich missing open looks. Even Trent Noah missed a few. I mean, like, the team just could not buy a bucket until really down the stretch. Denzel, made a couple shots when the game was essentially over, but they could never get anything going offensively, and then you're out rebounded by 22 or whatever the final 21. Yep. Yeah, like, honestly, like, the fact you only lost by 8 and were kind of in it for majority of the game with, I would argue, outside of like that stretch from Diabate until Aberdeen kind of went off down towards the end, like, nobody played well. And the fact you're even able to hang around in it, I think, is really showed how poor Florida played, but just Kentucky was just never could get any type of rhythm or anything going.
For as bad as Florida played, Kentucky played worse in almost every aspect of this game. The one positive that I want to take away from it is it just seems that for whatever reason, we can guard this Florida team somewhat well. I don't know what that is because it doesn't seem like we're applying too much ball pressure. The one time it looked like, we were playing actual solid defense and they weren't just missing open threes was when Jasper Johnson got that 3 drilled in his face by Zaven Lee and kind of just put the game out of reach from there. But all in all, I mean, you think about playing a one seed in the Florida Gators and you shoot 36% from the field, 22% from three, and get out rebounded by 21, and you lose by eight. Like, I don't like taking moral victories. I don't think there is any moral victory to take out from this. What happens when these shots start to fall? Now, they've got to start falling. And Jake, I kind of want to talk to you just about, can we just start using that Wilson Evo ball like throughout the regular season? I know we're a Nike school and we
I
like to
don't
use that
understand.
basketball, but you know they're going to use that in the tournament, and you know they're
Yep.
going to use that in any postseason game you play. Why are you not playing with that game 24/7? Like, I
I
genuinely don't understand it. I'm not saying that's the reason they couldn't shoot well in this game, but it can't help.
Yeah, that's been. I think that's just a college basketball kind of issue and thing I've complained about for a while. Like, there should just be a standard ball, and every school should play with it. Whether you're a Nike school, like you don't have to play with a Nike ball, and Adidas schools don't have to play with an Adidas ball. Just make it like the NBA and say, here's our basketball for Division One, and go with it. So I agree with you. I think it's insane that there are all these different type of balls, and everybody talks about how different they all are. But yeah, I mean, back to the game. I mean, you made 5 threes, and two of them were Mo Diabate back to back,
Mm-hmm.
and that's not going to be a recipe. And it's also just not that you didn't make a lot. I'd argue you didn't have the right guy shooting them a lot in Colin Chandler. I mean, he's got to get back to taking those 6 to 8 threes a game. We were talking about it back when he was having that stretch and playing well. Right before he did, we both came on here and said, like, we want him to get, like, it's like we're back with like Kobe Bryant. You want him to go from a guy that's taken 3 or 4 shots from behind the arc a game to now you want to see him take 6 to 8. And I think in order for this team to be successful, he has to find ways to take shots. And, I understand part of that might be he has to take more contested shots at times, but I also think there's moments where he doesn't pull the trigger fast enough and is taking it. Like, he's a guy, if we lose in the NCAA tournament and it's because Colin goes 1 for 7 behind the arc, I'll you know, live with it. But I think we got to get him taking more volume here down the stretch.
Yeah, and it's that balance that we've been looking for Colin Chandler. A lot of it is, we talk about just offensively how many plays are being drawn up for him, but he's also not taking that into his own hands
Correct.
either. Like, I can't imagine, especially in this game, there were 18 plays drawn up for Otega Owe, who went 5 of 18. At some point, you just have to take and get what you can, and when you are the team's best shooter, you have to shoot threes. Like, it's a part of the game now. Goes 1 of 3 in this one. Now, granted, one of those that he missed was the very start of the game. He was wide open, and that was just a precursor for everything that was going to happen throughout the entire game because this team was ice cold from three. You had 4 of 8 from Mohamed Diabate and Denzel Aberdeen. The rest of the team was 1 of 15 from three. And we mentioned it outside of, I think, of a couple of Otega's, these were all open looks.
Yelly, I
Yelovich,
think all 4 of his were wide open.
yeah, Yelovich, and that's my guy. Like, just 0 for 4 from three with wide open looks. I mean, those are ones that just have to fall. Jasper Johnson, same thing. Trent Noah comes into the game. I think you really saw Pope was kind of just reaching for anybody who could make shots at that point and inserted Trent Noah into the lineup. Immediately gets a wide open three and misses it. As soon as he checks in, Cam Williams wasn't much of a factor. I'm not sure what all we can kind of expect from Cam going the rest of this year, especially say you do beat Santa Clara. Is he going to be ready in a day and a half rest? I'm not sure because you saw after that LSU game where he made a little bit of an impact. That Missouri game, you could see just the difference in how he felt, and then again the very next game against Florida just kept getting worse and worse each time out there. It's just a tough offensive showing, and it seems like this was a game that was very gettable for the Cats, a very winnable game, and something that they just let slip through their fingers. And I can only imagine what a win like this would have done for this group to finally like get off the schneid against a very good Florida team and what that could have done for their confidence going into this tournament run. But unfortunately, there just wasn't a good enough shooting night, and the Cats lost.
Yeah, and I mean, I'm not going to obviously make like the fatigue excuse, but it did look like, especially maybe even with Yelovich and Owe, like maybe 3 straight days, it felt like every one of their shots was hitting front rim and they just couldn't get anything to the basket. But again, like same way when we're talking about you're a 7 seed and you have this, difficult bracket, you did it to yourself. You did it to yourself by getting the 9 seed and made it to where you had to play Florida on 3 straight days of playing and them being fully rested. But I mean, yeah, it would have been great to kind of catapult it and get you the kind of this feeling going into it. One bright side, you got, now an extra day for Cam to get rested up, and he didn't have to try to go play Saturday and then be ready to go Friday. You got, the Friday draw, so you're piling up. It's going to be a full week of him not having to play. So if there is kind of a path to setting up for him to play Friday, and then if you win, be ready to go for Sunday, I think hindsight's 2020, but it probably worked out as well as it could have for you.
Fatigue can't be an issue going forward.
I agree with that. I'm saying just for Cam.
Oh, yeah. And I fully understand what you're saying, but we're talking about this week. They're going to have a full week. You mentioned it there, 7 days until they face Santa Clara. Santa Clara's they've got 10
be
days.
A thing I mentioned here when we play, Friday and then hopefully Sunday.
Saying Santa Clara, they're looking at 10 days, so you're going to get there rested and the best version of themselves as well. Let's go ahead and talk about the SEC championship. We have to mention it.
Sure.
Arkansas, Calipari wins an SEC championship, a tournament he couldn't care less about. And Jake, I don't know if you saw him on the Selection Sunday show. I've never heard somebody win a SEC championship. That was Arkansas's, second in school history, I believe?
Second in school history.
Second in school history. Complain as much as he did just in that 3-minute spell that he had talking about, oh, we have to go out to Portland. Oh, we have to play on Thursday. That means we got to fly out on Tuesday. We haven't left Nashville yet. This is the NCAA tournament, dude. It happens every year.
I agree, and I have a lot of comments, but I will say if you're going to make the argument for one team kind of getting hosed a little bit, I think you can maybe make it for Arkansas with that draw to Portland. But regardless, needless saying, I got to make some comments on some other stuff, and I wasn't going to try to get worked up.
Floors is yours.
I mean, you brought it up. These fans, these national media members talking about, Arkansas or John Calipari won the divorce and all this and a lot of.
I mean, so far he has,
and
through 2 years.
I mean, slightly, possibly.
Yeah, it's not a wide margin.
The only thing
through 2 years, you would have to say he has.
The only thing he's done different than we have is he won the SEC tournament this year, which he got to play Oklahoma, Ole Miss, and then a good Vanderbilt team. So,
I mean, you can only play who's in front of you. And you know me, I am not a John Calipari apologist. So any of this is me just playing devil's advocate here.
Yeah, I get it. But the only thing he's done in 2 years that we haven't done is win the SEC tournament, which is obviously something as Kentucky fans we care about and we want to win. So
yeah, it's a big deal, especially when it's only their second in school history.
I'm not knocking it. But between the comments of Bruiser Flint and all of these other people.
Well, Bruiser's an idiot. I mean, let's just call it how it is.
I must have missed when the hell Kentucky fired John Calipari. What was the buyout we had to pay? When did we didn't? He left on his own? Okay. Yeah, that's right. Everything that we talk about with Cal, none of it happened here. He wasn't that guy. Everybody's talked about it. I get it. everything he's doing, he wasn't going to do here. He did not care. He could not connect with boosters to get them to donate to NIL. That was 100% on him. He'd shut every single person out of the program and it made it the University of John Calipari. He hired all of his ridiculous friends to come sit on the staff instead of trying to hire and assemble a staff that could win basketball games. You had one guy that was actually a competent basketball mind in John Welch, and he couldn't wait to get the hell out of here. The second his first season ended, he ran for the door. Now, Cal's found some juice. I would argue it's not even really Cal. It's that he doesn't have Devin Askew and Ty Washington and Severe Wheeler running point. He's got an elite playmaking point guard. And I think that's honestly
he's got 2 elite shooters, too.
Yeah. And then, I mean, of course, like it helps when you got guys that aren't good shooters like Brazil and DJ Wagner that
going 3 for 3 from 3.
Yeah, Brazil was what
Billy Richmond knocked down 2 of them as well. Yeah.
So I mean, like there is some luck in it involved, but I mean, Acuff is a dude, and you could argue just from a college level, he's his best point guard since Derrick Rose as a true freshman.
Might be able to make the argument that he's better than Derrick Rose just from.
Yeah, I mean, but it's close. Like there's like the season
the fact that we're talking about that being in conversation just shows the level of player that he
elite. And like, so I think everything that's kind of mentioned in this is at the end of the day, like they're still a 4 seed. They've had some really bad losses. Let's not forget, it was 3 weeks ago they lost to Florida by 8,000 points and were never competitive in that game. Like, I think they're a good team, and would it shock me if Cal somehow rallies the troops and hops on Acuff's back and rides them to a Final Four? Absolutely not. But, like, I don't think they'll lose to Hawaii. Hawaii, I think, is a really good matchup for them because Hawaii does not help and does not leave shooters, and I think Acuff could go for 40 in that game. But, like, outside of that, would it shock me if they lose in the second round or, Sweet 16? Absolutely not. So I'm not ready to say, like, Arkansas is in this great holy place. I mean, hell, a year ago, their fans were bitching as much as anybody around, and they were already tired of him coming to his press conferences and doing his little gimmicks, and they weren't a good team. And for a lot of the year this year, they weren't really that great of a team. Darius Acuff has just hit another level since SEC play and has pretty much carried him back into relevance.
Yeah, and we'll move off of this here soon, but part of what I will agree with you, when you have Malik Thomas who's shooting, I think it's 48% from 3 in SEC play.
And you finally start him.
And you have Darius Acuff who's scoring over 20 and like 7 assists a game, and he's also shooting about 40% from 3. How did they have the regular season that they did?
Well, you got to remember, until SEC play, DJ Wagner still started.
I'm aware.
And Acuff wasn't the primary ball handler and wasn't your true point guard. At least he finally made the adjustment, right? I mean, at least
a lot of this is why, like, we grew so frustrated with John Calipari, were things like this. But we also have to just talk about, like, yes, he has slightly won a divorce over 2 years. Granted, that could change here very quickly in a matter of a week.
We could go out and find a new wife here in a year. I mean, that could be even better.
And also, like, they could lose to Hawaii. They could lose in that next round to Wisconsin or even High Point.
Yep.
And not make the second weekend. And now they're talking about the same things. Oh, how come with a generational point guard like Darius Acuff, we couldn't get to the second weekend? That's still where we're at. Now, granted, as much as I say that, has this been a tumultuous season from hell for the Kentucky Wildcats? Absolutely.
Real quick before we move back to Kentucky, he still had a John Calipari masterclass at the end of that Ole Miss game and somehow got lucky and survived it. So that's...
Yeah. Well, also, let me say this. And Chris Beard, I think he did a great job at the end of just for that tournament run that they went on, because Ole Miss was not a good team. I also think with Malik Dia, AJ Storr, and Camerdine, they underperformed the entire year.
Yeah, they won 4 SEC games and then won almost 4 straight in the
They underperformed the entire year. Why were you letting Travis Perry one-on-one with Darius Acuff the last stretch? And I had PTSD. I was sitting there and I was like, oh my God, it's like I'm back. Like I thought Travis was wearing the Kentucky blue again. And this is not to just like drag Travis because he had a pretty good SEC tournament run
Yeah, he
there.
played well.
But Chris Beard, man, you make like one adjustment and just don't let the best point guard in the country go against Travis Perry on the defensive side of the ball. You probably win that game. So, all right, Jake, we've talked about the SEC tournament. Cats won 2 games, not enough. That's not the Kentucky standard. Still haven't gotten to the weekend since what, 2018? Is that the last?
No,
Or
I think they made it in 21, the Oscar year.
that was the one in Tampa, right? But I think this
Yeah,
is like the first time like
because
back in Nashville that they haven't
yeah, well,
in
and
the
it's the
weekend.
first time they won 2 games because even that team got the double bye, played Friday, and then lost to Tennessee on Saturday.
Yeah.
So
So trying to break generational curses here, and it's just not going well for us. SEC tournament, we'll set that to the side. Another disappointing performance down in Nashville for the Cats. Let's move to the NCAA tournament. This is where we got to get all positive, Jake, because for all we know, this might be the last week of basketball that we have for what,
I
6 months, 7 months?
realistically, it could end about 2:30 on Friday.
It,
So
it, it could. So that's why that negative comment you just made there, I'm going to
I
skate right past it. I'm
just
going to
say
skate right past it because right now we're going to talk all positive. So Jake, I know you specifically have been watching a lot of the national media people.
Yep.
And for that reason, you're feeling pretty good about this game. I want you to explain yourself.
Yeah, I mean, when it first came out, obviously there's a bunch of different reactions. You're going to play a 10 seed. It's going to be a decent team. You can't play A&M or Missouri. So then you get to the point where you're playing UCF or Santa Clara. And I actually, as I kind of took a step back at first, I was a little hesitant. I'm like, man, they shoot a lot of threes. We struggle to guard the three, this and that. As I took a step back, I think I'd rather take the team that you're going to be more athletic, you're going to be more talented than like UCF is a freakishly athletic team. I watched them play UC the other day and the Arizona game after, and like blast from the past, Jordan Burks, man. I mean, he makes some crazy athletic plays, and they got just a lot of athletes flying around, and they're a tough team and a pretty well coached team. So, after all things considered, of the 10 seeds, the ones you could play, I feel pretty good about Santa Clara. And the thing, you mentioned it, every single national reporter, whether it's the people right on CBS directly after the game, I saw John Fanta, John Rothstein, like literally every single person's bracket I've seen has all picked Santa Clara. And that's the hot, trendy, I guess if you want to call it an upset, a 10 over a 7. I don't really consider an upset, but whatever. Every single person is picking that. And usually when that happens, it doesn't happen. And I feel a lot better after really about an hour after Selection Sunday, where I kind of sat back and thought about it. I feel much better about this game, and I think it's as good of a first round matchup for a 7 seed to have.
Yeah, that's where and you mentioned it a little bit earlier. When you lose 12 games during the regular season, you have no right to bitch and moan and complain about the seed line that you were given or the matchups that you have.
Yep.
Don't lose 12 games during the regular season. And then if you're a 1 seed, then you can complain about the draw you got.
Yeah, if you're Duke with St. John's, Kansas, Michigan State, and
And
UConn, okay.
yeah. Then you can complain and then I'll hear you out. But then again, the hatred for Duke is unmatched here, so I'm not going to listen to their complaining anyways. Even
Yep.
though they might, if they were ever going to get me to listen to them, this might be the
one.
year. But I'm still not going to listen to them. But when we were talking, you mentioned it right there, and I thought the same thing. Like, you hear Santa Clara shoots a lot of threes, hits a lot of threes. We don't defend the three great, but this also isn't 2023 with John Calipari, and you're expecting, just no sort of adjustments to be made when something is going against you. When we, for the most part, have time to scout a team and we know a little bit about him, and there is something on the line. Normally, we do have a good scout, at least for one of the halves.
Yep.
Now, you're going to have to do it for both halves because with a team that shoots as many threes as they do, they can get back into a game as quick as that. And especially with the offensive droughts that we can go on, we can let a team back into any game at any time.
Yep.
Check LSU, check Missouri. Both of those games, you saw something similar there. I love the way the bracket fell out for them. I was talking to you, and just the 2 seeds, I think we got the worst 2 seed in there. I am not a huge Virginia fan. I think this set up as perfectly as it could for Kentucky to have a chance for an Elite Eight run.
Yep.
Is that something that I'm going to pick them to do? I don't know. But if you were asking me, or if you were telling me coming into the NCAA tournament, everything that we've seen, hey, you have to beat Santa Clara, Iowa State, and then either Virginia or Tennessee to get to the Elite Eight, I'm signing up for that 9 times out of 10 and feeling pretty good about it, especially with some of the other brackets and regions that we saw. I'm not sure where you stand on that, though.
Yeah, I mean, again, back to Iowa State, like everything else, you put yourself in a position where you're going to play one of the best 8 teams or whatever
Yeah.
in the second game. I will say, as someone who has bet on and against Iowa State multiple times this year, they are the team that I could not figure out the most.
I mean, you're just not a good gambler, so there's that too.
I actually saw, and this was like 3 weeks ago, some random Twitter account I saw tweet it and said, whatever you do with Iowa State in your bracket, it's going to be wrong. Like, they are a team that easily could go on a run to the national championship game. There's times, whether it's them beating Kansas by 20 or Texas Tech by 20, or, you know, losing to Arizona twice on buzzer beaters, where they look like one of the best 3 teams in the country. And then there's times where they go and lose to UC by 9, or, you know, go to Kansas and lose by 19. Like, so they are an extremely difficult team to figure out. They're another team that likes to shoot a lot of threes. They also lost by 9 at home against Texas Tech without JT Toppin. So there's those performances that are just absolute stinkers. But again, they can beat Houston. They can play with Arizona to the last second. They shoot a lot of threes. They're physical, pretty well coached. But again, to your point of, you got to play one of these 8 best teams, I think they're the ones most susceptible to having kind of just a bad performance in the round. Maybe Purdue, because I think Purdue's pretty fraudulent as a 2, is like,
Yeah, I think they got overseeded.
Yeah, like the only other one you want to see. I mean, they went through some stretches of playing really bad basketball, but then they came back and won the Big Ten and beat Michigan. So they obviously have shown kind of the same thing. But I think of all those teams, like, they're the most susceptible to just having kind of a head-scratching clunker. And if they come out and play their best basketball, they'll beat Kentucky by 10. But is there a world where they're not playing their best and the Cats are playing well and you find a way to go steal it? Absolutely. And I think it's, I'm not going to say likely, but it's a better possibility than, I would argue, for a Houston or a UConn. Like, you know what you're going to get from those teams. Or even if Michigan State would have stayed at 2, like, same with them.
The thing with this Kentucky team is that it seems like those opportunities that they've been given when teams don't play well, they haven't necessarily like taken the bull by the horns and just gone with it. And hopefully, again, with a potential matchup against Iowa State, Kentucky could lose on Friday. Iowa State could lose their first game. I don't think either one's going to happen, but it could. Iowa State, and the reason that I kind of felt a little bit better about having them as the 2 seed is they're 4-4 over their last 8 games. They are, and I know you're going to look at, oh man, they just played Arizona real tight in the Big 12 championship game. They did. They lost by 2 points, and Arizona is one of the best teams in the country. 2 of those wins were against an Arizona State team, which is absolutely awful. When they played Arizona just a couple weeks ago, they lost by 16. You mentioned they lost to Texas Tech without Toppin. A BYU team who I'm not going to say isn't very good, but it is just AJ DeBonsa, especially with Richie Saunders out. It is just DeBonsa. I'm not saying I'm not scared. You mentioned top 8 team in the country. Obviously, Kentucky is going to be an underdog in that game. It's as good, even with Purdue. I still think it's as good as you could have asked for.
Yep.
I don't think Iowa State's playing their best basketball. Kentucky's not playing their best basketball. Iowa State's best is better than Kentucky's best, but can you get one of those games where you play your best and they do not? You can, and when you get into March, you only need one of those. Just need one of those nights to go your way. And then you're talking about, wait a second, we made it to the Sweet 16 after all of this complaining and moaning
Possibly
all season.
facing Hugo.
Facing Hugo, trying to beat Tennessee, and hopefully the same thing doesn't happen as last year. And you know me,
That's
man.
a scary
I
thought, man.
think that's something that I don't want to speak into existence here, but I do want to, now that we've kind of just looked at the bracket in total, I do want to narrow down in on this Santa Clara team. 2-6 in quad one games. I think West Coast Conference, I think that speaks to a lot of the teams that they play. Both of those quad one wins were against St. Mary's, which St. Mary's is a good team. I mean, what seed did they end up getting in this one? Do you
7.
remember?
Yeah,
So
7.
same seed line as Kentucky. They beat them twice, lost to them once. 3 of those losses that they had were Gonzaga. Kentucky fans obviously are very aware of what Gonzaga can do. And they also lost to New Mexico.
Yeah.
So, I mean, they have thrown in some clunkers in these games. I'm not going to say that I expect Kentucky to win by a lot or a vast majority. I think the betting line that I saw was Kentucky was a 2.5-point favorite the last that I looked.
3.5 now, but yep.
3.5 now. We got Mr. Vegas, Jacob Boyers at it at all times.
It was up to 4.5, but yeah. I mean, I'm with you, man. Like, this team also, obviously it was earlier in the year, so how much can go into it? But you mentioned they got ran by New Mexico, but like they also lost to Arizona State, who we just saw score 42 points in the Big 12 championship and got Hurley fired. So like they lost that one. They lost to, who was the other one? Loyola Chicago. Like,
which is a quad 4 team, by the way.
Yeah. There's some really bad. Now they pretty much handled their business in conference play, right? They beat the teams they should have beat, and even to your point, probably stole 1 or 2 of those against, St. Mary's. But yeah, I'm not near as worried about this team as, again, the second I saw it and kind of started thinking about it and looked at it, I thought it could potentially be a bad matchup. But I think it's going to be a big Mo game, right? Like their best players, that forward. It's a game where I want to see Mo use all that physicality and strength, make him as uncomfortable as he can be. No offense to Yelovich, like Yeli will, I think, obviously play and, probably you hope to have his shot making. But I think this is a game where if you just out physical them, out effort them, out, I think it's going to come from Mo setting the tone and, whether it's grabbing rebounds, knocking him off his spot, whatever it may be. I'm expecting big things from Mo, and I think that's going to just almost rely on your athleticism, which isn't something we've been able to say about this team a ton, but I think there's definitely a piece. And, this is probably a game where Malachi is going to not have to be super, super physical and worry about getting the ball taken from him. I could see it being a good Malachi game, while also in those times where BG comes in, I expect him to be able to go get rebounds and kind of do his thing. It's scary on paper, I get it, because Santa Clara could come out and make 15 threes and you lose the game. But, I mean, I think barring that, that's really the only path for them to win this game. And if Kentucky just kind of does what they should, now I know that's a big if for this team this year, but
huge if.
You can win.
Yeah, I love what you said there about Mo, especially on the defensive side of the ball, and just the physicality that he brings, making those shots a lot tougher. This team is not very good finishing around the rim. That's probably what lost them that conference game against
I
Gonzaga.
was about to say, which team you talking about? Because
Both. But Santa
no,
Clara is not good at finishing around the rim, especially through any sort of contact. And when they go up against teams, who have those athletes like Gonzaga, you see where they start to run in to those problems because they stood
yep,
in that championship game with Gonzaga for 36, 30,
yep,
35 minutes of that game, and they were right there with them. They just couldn't finish around the rim. And the three-pointer stopped falling, and then Gonzaga, just with their athletes and their speed specifically, and that's where I think Kentucky can really take advantage is the speed.
yep.
They like to get up and down the floor, but they shoot a lot of shots. They're 25th in offense. Jeez Louise, that was a little bit of a slip there. That almost had that was rough. 25th
You
in
got it. Power through it.
offensive efficiency.
Yep.
They were 38th in points per game. They shot 34.9% from three.
Yep.
It's 130th in the nation. So when you hear that this team is a 3-point shooting team, that is a volume stat.
Yep. They shoot
that people are talking about. They shoot a lot of threes and they get up and down the court quick. But they're not good at when they're on their heels. Gonzaga exploited them in that aspect. They shoot 29 threes a game, which is 21st in the country. And that's where you hear all the national media heads talking about, oh, this team shoots a lot of threes, they do all this, and they're a 3-point shooting team. They are. They don't make a ton of them.
Yep.
Hopefully this is one of those games that you're not looking back and you're seeing 39% from three instead of their normal 35, or you're seeing some crazy number that you're not used to.
Yeah, I mean they could get hot. But
yeah, and that's barring them getting hot, and I think you had mentioned that just a little while ago. I can't see Kentucky losing this game unless you have just an abysmal Otega-Oweh performance, kind of like Florida. I can't see them doing that. And you mentioned having Mohamed Diabate on the floor a lot, and this is one, and I don't think it's going to happen because we've talked about it all season long, and you haven't seen it much. I want to get out and I want to run and run and run and run and run and run. And when I think of the two bigs on the floor that I want for while we're running and gunning, it's not Malachi or BG. Those aren't. BG can do it. Malachi struggles with it a little bit more. And you don't need the physicality in this game. You don't. Mohamed Diabate is plenty physical enough to deal with their forwards and the size that they have. I'd love to see a offensive lineup put out in this one because your length is going to bother them around the rim. As long as you're not giving them wide open threes, you're set defensively. And I get the concerns of, Yelovich this, Yelovich that. Play the man and see what happens.
Yeah. And you mentioned Otega, and I'm expecting a monster game from Otega-Oweh because I don't think they have a single player that can stay in front of him on the floor. And I think he should be able to get to the rim whenever he wants and essentially force them to have to make an adjustment and double team him. Now, like you mentioned, you can't have him have a game like Florida. I mean, there's not going to be three guys that are 6'10" and above, waiting around the rim from Santa Clara. So I think he's going to be able to do the things that we see Otega in the games where he's the best do. And I think he's going to be able to get downhill, get to the rim. Hopefully he's not shooting a ton of jump shots because I don't think he's going to need to in this game. I think he's going to be able to really, just like I said, just get to the rim at ease. And especially if this game gets fast and they get out and running, we talk about that's where they're the best. You saw little clips and glimpses of it in the Missouri game at a time, or in LSU, like times here and there where they kind of got out and ran. And I think Santa Clara is going to want to play that. And we haven't seen Kentucky play that way a ton this year, but every time they do, it's when we look the best.
Yeah. And then they refuse to do it the very next night out.
But if you get a team that's going to force them to do it, I think it actually plays in their hands. So I'm hoping every team we play from here on out will play the game as quick as they can, because that's what's, again, this is why I think this is a better matchup than even UCF, because UCF's going to try to slow this game down and muck it up. And, they're going to press you and pretty much try to make it to where you don't even they're going to press you without trying to turn you over, and it's really just because they're trying to get you into the half court with 22 seconds left on the shot clock, and all this other stuff. So like, I think this is the best matchup that they could have gotten.
Yeah, and just some stats to kind of reinforce what we're talking about here. This team's 10th in the country in field goals attempted,
Yep.
or field goals made, 5th in the country in field goals attempted. They get out and they run. And they crash the offensive glass pretty well, too. 20th in the country in their offensive rebounding rate. It's something that, as long as you keep these guys off the glass, you run with them full speed. I mean, this could be, I hesitate to say a blowout just because we see this team just lack focus at times where they get up 12 points and put it away. But this is one, man, if you're not shooting completely cold, you're forcing the action, you're getting downhill. I think this is a game Kentucky's just, it matches up perfectly for the athletes that they have. I To what you said, I can't envision a better matchup for them when you have a 7 seed. This
Yep.
is as much as they could have asked for. And this is a team that they shoot so many threes. They don't really test you north and south and get around the rim. They don't shoot many free throws. The one thing that they do well on the defensive side of the ball, they get a lot of steals. And Kentucky's been prone, especially as of late, to just have weird turnovers.
Yep.
And they seem to come in bunches with this team where you'll see Ortega dribbled off of his leg. Jasper throws it three rows into the stands. As long as this team takes care of the ball and doesn't give up free possessions to Santa Clara, I think this just matches up so well for the Cats. And as long as we don't have anybody trying to get theirs, if you don't have Ortega shooting 5 of 18, if you don't have just anyone in particular, like say Jasper comes in, we don't need him to force up 3 shots, and Kentucky fans are really down on Jasper. We heard a guy yell at him and call him Turtlehead while we were watching the game together on Friday. People are down on him. I think
some have called him a more confident Travis Perry, but after Travis's SEC tournament, I don't know if that's fair these days.
Here's this guy tooting his own horn with his little victory lap here. I hear you, Mr. Jacob Boyers,
I'm with you.
Take the floor, man.
Yeah. No, and you said you could see this being a blowout. I agree with you. I mean, the thing that gives me hesitance to pick Kentucky big is we talked about it. There is a world where Santa Clara just gets really hot and they shoot a bunch of threes and they make 15 of them. And, next thing you know, we look like idiots and Kentucky outright loses. And
it's all right. We look like idiots plenty enough. Yeah. Ask Miss Kate. She knows both of us look like idiots quite often.
It's very true. So, but yeah, man, I just think, again, the more I talk about it, the more I look at it, the more I get to Kentucky should win and win pretty easily. And back to it, this should be a game where Ortega can get to the rim whenever he wants. Those are the games he's the best in. The bigs, I don't worry as much with, Malachi and BG and even Yelovich getting rebounds ripped out of their hands like we see against Florida. A game where Mo should be able to establish himself defensively and bring a level of physicality that they haven't seen. Now, if you come out and Kentucky just cannot buy a shot from behind the arc, Santa Clara is shooting well, could it be really close and a lot of pressure go on Kentucky down the stretch? Absolutely. But I'm hoping if that's the case, back to it, Malachi in the post, Ortega getting to the rim. And I don't think you need to make 7, 8, 10 threes to beat this team. Now, if you do, then I think you're talking about blowing them out of the gym. But I think you just got to kind of dominate inside and play fast. And I think everything kind of sets up for Kentucky to do that.
Yeah, and really there's 3 guys in particular that you kind of just have to, I don't want to say run off the 3-point line, but there's got to be a hand in their face. It has to be a contested 3-pointer. Christian Hammond is shooting 40% from 3. Alan Graves, who is probably their best player. He's shooting
That's
41.6%
where
from
Mo
three.
comes in.
And then you got Jake Esminger, which, Jake, I will say what, man, this list of names that these guys have, it's tough. It's going to be, I don't remember, I know John Rothstein was he was the sideline guy for our game. I can't remember who the other two were that are announced on our game, but they're going to have their hands full with this
They
list of names because like this Sash Gavaluiva, like that's
that's
my
not even the most. I don't even think that's the toughest one on there.
no. They got Francis
Yeah,
Chukwudoglu
yeah,
as well. He it's going to be tough for this announcing crew, but those three specifically contested shots. Don't
yep,
let them get in a rhythm early, especially when you're a team like Santa Clara who doesn't get to make NCAA tournaments regularly. You go out there with a level of confidence, you see your first couple of shots fall down, and next thing you know, they're out and running. And with a team that plays as fast as they do, that's where I think they could find a way to get themselves in some sort of trouble. Just don't start off like you do every Florida game. Don't start off down 11-2, and I think you'll be fine. I mean, even in that game they just had against Gonzaga, they started off up 9-1, and
yep.
Gonzaga was still able to come and, handle business there. Are we as good as Gonzaga? I don't think so. I don't know if you remember that Nashville game, Jake, but that wasn't very
That
fun.
was a long time ago, though, and I tell you,
It was,
Gonzaga
but I'm not sure if we've gotten
is
that much
play.
better, but
No, but
Gonzaga hasn't either.
yeah. So no,
One thing I will say I am a little weary of this Bucky Oboye. I don't know if you saw that dunk he had against
just the name
Gonzaga.
Bucky gives me like PTSD.
Yeah. Well, this
I
is
can't
B
hear
U
Bucky
K K Y.
without thinking of Bucky Ball and listening to Jimmy Dykes say it 987 times through a 2.5 hour broadcast. But yeah, go ahead.
This guy, you talk about athlete. That'll be the best athlete on the floor.
Yeah.
The dunk he had against Gonzaga, this man's chin was on the rim. It was insane. He leads them in
That's
block
fine. If we get
shots.
some SEC refs, they'll call that a flagrant on them. So I'll take it.
I don't think we have SEC refs. I think this is the Mid South Conference, which is doing or Missouri Valley. It's one of those two that has our game in St. Louis. This is scary to me because whenever I do feel confident about something, specifically with this version of Kentucky
You felt
Wildcats
really good
team,
about Missouri. We got the win.
I did, but I felt somewhat solid about Florida. Now, granted, let's call a spade a spade. A one
Pump
seed
brakes.
Florida team feeling confident versus a 10 seed Santa Clara. I'm ready, man. I fast forward me to Friday at noon. I'm ready to go. St. Louis, Missouri, not that far for Cats fans to get out there. Big Blue Nation will be there in full force. I'm ready to go, man.
I gotta say, the committee, them putting this game at noon. I mean, Friday is either gonna be like the best day ever,
Or the worst day of your life. One of the two.
man, or I'm gonna be so angry and just betting the most obnoxious stuff because I'm gonna have to do something to feel good for the rest. Noon's tough, man. Either, like I said, either it's gonna be awesome or the whole day is just it's gonna ruin my favorite day of the year. I mean, I guess I can't say too much because we did lose to Oakland on a Thursday night, and then I had to go watch college basketball all day Friday. So, whatever. Also, I'm watching with a bunch of UC and Ohio State fans, and I might have some bad karma coming my way. So I think that might be one thing we have to watch out for because I have talked a lot of trash, and even as recently as a week ago about UC's epic collapse. So, yeah, that's the one bit of concern I have is these people have been waiting years to get a lick back on me.
Yeah, well, I mean, this is Ohio State's first tournament in 4 years, and UC never made it under Wes Miller, so it's been a long time for them as well. I'm gonna say it now, and I know there's gonna be people that are listening. Jake, we're near the Cincinnati area that aren't gonna like this. Two poverty programs.
Yeah.
It's just what it is.
Well, one of the first time I was with this group of people to watch March Madness, UC played the first game against Iowa at noon on that Friday, and they blew that game. And I talked a lot of trash, and that's the last time they made the tournament. I brought it up every year since then. So I'm hoping the basketball
Well, I hope
gods
your
are
negative karma
looking.
really doesn't.
I'm hoping they're looking the other way, because if we lose, I think it'll be 100% my fault.
It usually is. I've become accustomed to, if this Wildcats team does lose, I just usually blame it on you. I don't. Nobody else needs to take the bullets. I think you can take it for Big Blue Nation. Jake, is there anything else you want to talk about regarding the Wildcats team, the lead up to this game, anything in particular, Mark Pope, anything at all you want to talk to Big Blue Nation about before they take on Santa Clara?
Let's make a run, Cam. I don't care. This season,
I painted you the picture, man.
up
It's
and
there.
down roller coaster. Let's take that roller coaster up one more time, man, before we hop off, and let's let's maybe make a run to the Elite Eight. I don't think it's going to happen, but let's do it. Why
We
not?
can talk ourselves into it. We're fans at the end of the day, Jake. We try to put
I
on
went
our
from-
media hats and
I went
not
from
put
an
any
hour-
bias.
I went from an hour after Selection Sunday to saying that we're going to lose to Santa Clara to now I think they're going to win by 15 plus. So, yeah, anything's possible. I could talk myself into anything with the best of them. I'll tell you that, man.
Well, let's put it this way. I have yet to fill out my entire bracket. You better believe there's going to be at least one of them that has these Wildcats winning it all.
That's good for you.
I'm not saying I'm predicting it to happen. As a fan, you are required to have at least one bracket that you make have your team winning it all. It doesn't matter if they're a 16 seed in a play-in game. It doesn't matter what they are. That's a requirement. And I will be fulfilling my requirement. It doesn't sound like you will be. So you want to talk about all this fan karma that we're about to get? Now you have me scared for
That's
Friday.
fine. You've called me a bad fan a lot over the last few days, so I'll wear it.
Somebody has to. All right, Jake. Cats taking on Santa Clara, 12:15 on Friday in St. Louis, Missouri. The Wildcats are 1-0 against Santa Clara in their history. That one win, do you remember when it was, Jake?
I don't.
Any idea? 2006. So I would have been the ripe age of 8 years old at the time. I don't remember much about it. I know Chuck Hayes was heavily involved, Randolph Morris as well.
I do have to make one more point real quick before we move on. In the Mark Pope era, this team's been pretty damn good, tipping off between 11 and 11:30 local time. I mean, Florida last year in Rupp, 11 a.m. Everybody said it was too early. Game of the year. They played 2 in the SEC tournament, 11:30 local time. 11:15 local time now. I'm just saying that this team's been
keep
pretty
painting me that picture, because especially for Santa Clara, this is going to be 9 a.m. game their time. Everything is pointing Kentucky blue, and Jacob and I of the Cats Talk podcast will have you covered for every step of that.
I refuse to live in a world. I refuse to live in a world where Bruce Pearl's making correct predictions. So for that alone, Kentucky has to come out and win. I mean, we just watched this guy get on TV and basically beg and cry for a Auburn team that was one game over 500 to make the tournament. I refuse to allow his upset prediction to be correct.
Especially after early in the season saying nepotism had nothing to do with his son getting the job, and then 3 months later to say, oh, yeah, I definitely helped him get the job. That's why he got the job. Yeah, Bruce Pearl, great X's and O's coach. And
I'll call you a clown now until you get hired by BBN in 2 years.
So I'll clip this for later. In
right
case
now,
Bruce
Pearl
give
me that nose.
ever makes his return to Lexington as a coach of the Kentucky Wildcats. I don't think it's going to happen.
No, I'm kidding.
but
why
if
are we
it does,
even talking about this? We're winning 9.
I don't know. You brought it up, so here we are.
Yeah, we're winning
Big Blue Nation. Jake, shut up.
Mark
up. I'm getting Big Blue Nation out of here, because guess what? They've got some film watching to do of their own. I know these Kentucky fans are going to try and watch as much Santa Clara film, tape, highlights, whatever they want. They're going to try and go out there and find it. But us at the Cats Talk podcast, we'll have you covered every step of the way for Kentucky's journey in March Madness. We're hoping it involves a second weekend, a third weekend. Who knows? Let's just talk. Jake, you and I are going to Indianapolis. That's where we're at. We've already talked about this. We're going Final Four in Indianapolis with these Kentucky Wildcats. So keep in touch with the Cats Talk podcast. Follow us on YouTube, Spotify, Amazon Music, iHeartRadio, and anywhere you get your social media content, Facebook, Instagram, TikTok. We're anywhere and everywhere, Big Blue Nation. Until then, go Big Blue.
Go Big Blue.